hexing and warmongering and murderous deceit that goes on every single day. And they are full of rage right up to their teeth, but they may not be capable of acting on that rage, you see? So
yes.
We have the rage in common. Those of us who dare to act on it and those of us who don't, we have the same rage. So that's why I say, please stay on board. Although the practice may not be for you, consider that you can give support to the people who do the practice.
Mm. Well, it's interesting because this theme keeps coming round and round for me in my life, and I'm quite interested in following this. So thank you. Now, but listening to you, I also noticed that you say that Kali selects or recruits us for the path of a Gaian eco-warrior.
Mm-hmm.
One who participates in lethal magic. Mm-hmm. Would you describe how this happens and what would happen if one chose not to respond, if they can, or if one feels that they are aligned on the path and one is confident of their consecration to Sophia Gaia, but doesn't receive some sign of Kali's selection? Or is that possible?
Sure. Well, I just want to say one thing, that I love these interviews because all of you, your questions and your observations are just really lucid, and it's so helpful to me to be able to converse in this way with you. It gives me the opportunity to be even more clear and intentional about what I say. And I want to say that this is an ongoing process with me and other people. Answering these questions is not my calling alone. Do you understand that?
Yes.
I'm a different teacher maybe than other kinds of teachers in the conventional sense. I mean, I love being a teacher and I love to teach. Yeah, I enjoy it tremendously. But I am a different teacher in this sense. If you go to the university and you study, say, history of the Civil War, maybe, you take a class in the history of the Civil War, the teacher, the professor of history, is going to stand up in front of you, and he or she is going to tell you what they learned. You know, they studied this subject before you, 20 or 30 years they put into it. They learned this, that, and the other thing about the Civil War, and they're going to pass on to you what they learned, right? That's the normal way it goes. With me, it's not like that at all. I'm not teaching you what I learned. I'm teaching you what I'm learning.
Right.
And this is really a different dynamic, you know?
Yeah, we're all learning together, even Sophia.
We are indeed, you know? And that's the beautiful part of it for me, and that's what makes it really, really dynamic, because we're passing this learning process back and forth. So as a Nawal in a party, I offer certain syntax which gives direction to the party, gives direction to the quest. But basically, we will learn these things together. The questions, the 3 or 4 questions that you just asked in a clump, more or less are going to be revealed to the Nawal's party as a learning experiment. I can only say this about Kali. I can tell you what she did to me and a couple of other people. She is
breathing down our backs.
Yeah, she's breathing down your backs, and she is the most brutally tender entity that you can imagine. And it's this killing tenderness. It's killing tenderness. And she takes you and makes you her own. At least she made me her own. And I've had a couple of other people attest to the same experience of being stabbed in the heart, which is just exactly what it feels like. I mean, whether she's going to make that intervention with everyone who comes into the practice here, I can't say. I think that if you are consecrated transpersonally to Sophia and to the earth then you're on the side of life, and you will follow that path as it's appropriate. Some people who share that concentration will also undertake contra-violence, but not all of them. So I don't know what will happen. I don't know if every single person who comes into contra-violence or into right action will be made by Kali in the way that I was made. I have a strong sense that she is going to make people that way. It is going to become a known and discussed phenomena. I just have a strong sense of that. And it's not something you can refuse. No way.
Yeah.
No way. Because in fact, there's no one there who can refuse it. Because she takes you to such a place of being non-being that there's nobody to refuse it. I described it as you know, in Severed Rose. There's a little passage in one of those installments of Severed Rose, the bus stop in Madras, India. I would wish it. If I dared to, I'd wish it on everyone in the world, but I won't go that far. But we're seeing it happen. We're seeing, and she is your lover, and she is the most intense lover that you'll ever have.
Yeah. Well, I think that if you've been struck by her, you cannot turn away.
No, it's true.
Well, given that I have a little bit of knowledge of astrology, I was wondering, are there any signposts in the astrological natal chart that might be a useful tool to aid in self-discernment of this package? I was thinking of the moon and Pluto, or moon and Mars.
My first inclination is to say no. But I don't want to be too categorical and blunt about that, you know?
Yeah.
I would say that not by the ordinary channels of astrology are going to discover this. I would just... What I get intuitively on this is that such insight, such tools of self-discernment, that would guide or assist us along these lines, okay? Would come from the constellational astrology.
Yeah. Okay.
For more of an understanding of that, rather than the sun sign astrology, which is a personalistic. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then in consideration of the path of right action, you've been focusing now on the ethical framework, wanting to make it, in Castaneda's terms, impeccably clear. The follow-up to this will be the practice, which you will not be disclosing until this ethical framework is in place. And I think it's important for you to maybe give us an overall view of this, of why it's important that we explore and experience this ethical framework, and why that must be in place before any practice disclosure. I really think that's important that you touch on this, and especially in the context of her timing.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, first I'll address first the last remark you made. Everything that I do in my practice of my life is in her timing now. And how do I know what her timing is? Well, anybody can know. This is what I love about what I do and what I teach. You know, it's not secret. It's not esoteric. It's not, you don't have to join some cult. It's all completely out in the open and transparent. And
it's also to be a normal human, John, what we're supposed to be.
Truly. That is truly so. It is to be in alignment with the life that is greater than our life. That's normal. Not to be in alignment with it is the abnormality into which we have fallen, right?
Yes.
The abnormality and sickness into which we have fallen, because we are not in alignment with the greater life that gives us life, you know? And it's almost as if, it's almost as if being normal has now become the great mystery that we have to crack, because we forgot what that was about, you know? And in a way, as I said before, everything becomes paranormal in their correction. Everything becomes supernatural. And yet that leads us back to the real essence of being a human being. This is it. And it's happening right now. Now, the way that I follow Sophia's timing is by tracking the movement of these two astronomical points in the constellations. Simple as that. And everyone in the Gaian navigation experiment knows exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, and they follow it in the same way. So what's happening now, right now, in this fall of October and November of 2011, is that the lunar apogee is moving through the constellation of the scales. And so that is the timing when I can introduce Gaian ethics and the basis of Gaian Eco-Sorcery, because the meaning of the scales, it's the balance, the scales. It's the only constellation that's of a human construction, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The other constellations are of animals or supernatural creatures, whatever. The scales is the constellation that sits at the feet of the Virgin, and it's somehow, in a very curious way, the stars of it are somehow intermingled with the composite stars of the Scorpion. And that's a very interesting interaction, which I've spoken of for many, many years now. If you want to imagine it as the Scorpion reaching up, the Scorpion is kind of emerging out of the Milky Way, reaching up, and with its left claw, it's like jarring the scales. So scales, which are supposed to be balanced so that we can keep everything in its proper measure, are somehow thrown out of balance, you know? This is a really profound image, which I'll be developing over the next 2 months as I talk about this. But basically, what does the scales mean? How do you translate it into a user-friendly syntax? Because the scales is the only constellation that represents a human-made artifact. It represents that part of the cosmic order that we make up ourselves. You see? The other constellational images are functions and processes of the cosmic order that are transhuman, that are actually made up for us, provided for us, as it were. But we must provide for ourselves one factor in the understanding of the cosmic order, and that is the factor of ethics. That is why the scales is the image or paradigm of ethics, you see? So I'm going to be revealing it in the moment that the lunar apogee moves through the scales. And the framework of ethics is very important for two reasons. First of all, because with a recognition of Gaian ethics, with that syntax, with that cognitive grasp of Gaian ethics, you align with Gaia and her animal powers.
Right.
In the way that enables you to perform this magic. You see, no one can perform this magic by themselves. It only works because of the boost that comes from the earth. And so, in order